Hello students, welcome back again to my digital classroom. In my last video for class 9 biology class, I discussed about the chapter Why Do We Fall Ill? To continue with the same chapter, today I will explain some more about it. Now today, first of all, let us see what do you mean by carriers in that communicable disease. Now, carriers are organisms which harbor disease-causing germs without showing any signs or symptoms of the disease themselves, but have the ability to infect other healthy individuals. Carriers of specific germs are called vectors. For example, we know malaria is caused by female Anopheles mosquito. So here the vector is the vector of malaria, which is caused by Plasmodium, is female insect or female Anopheles mosquito, because female Anopheles mosquito is the carrier of Plasmodium. The mode of transmission of a disease is called epidemiology. Now next, another wrong concept we have about peptic ulcer. Now it is known, or we all somehow believe, that peptic ulcers, which cause acidity related pain and bleeding in the stomach or in duodenum, were due to one's lifestyle. Generally, you consider a stressful lifestyle lead to acid secretion in the stomach, which is caused peptic ulcer. But two Australian scientists, Robin Warren and Barry Marshall, showed that a type of bacterium, that is Helicobacter pylori, was actually responsible for the disease. Disease means that peptic ulcer. So peptic ulcer is caused by a type of bacterium. Now next, we'll see how the transmission of diseases occurs, mainly in communicable diseases. Now, infectious diseases can be spread from an infected person to another person by a number of methods. It may be through air, it may be through water, it may be through sexual contact, and through carriers. Just now we have discussed what are carriers. Now, the diseases that spread through air are common cold, pneumonia, tuberculosis, diphtheria, etc., etc. There are so many diseases are there which spreads through air. Now, these disease-causing microbes spread through air. This occurs when the little droplets thrown out during the act of coughing or sneezing or while talking also. This type of infection is called droplet infection. A healthy person standing nearby can inhale these droplets, causing infection in that person. Airborne diseases are more common in crowded areas as well as in poorly ventilated rooms, where fresh circulation of air is not available. Now, what are the conditions that favors the airborne infections? Close proximity to that infected person, or if the place is too much overcrowded, and also due to poor ventilation. Next is the disease spreading through water or food. Here also several diseases are there which spreads from one person to another through food and water. For example, cholera, typhoid, jaundice, diarrhea, dysentery, etc. Now, some diseases can spread from one person to another when the infected person's stool gets into water, or may somehow mix with other food items. The stools may contain germs or eggs or worms. The people drinking such infected water, such polluted water, thus get the disease. It is therefore important to protect drinking water supplies from human or animal waste. And that is why we drink water after filtering or boiling it properly. It is advisable that we should not take water directly from tap, pond or river, because it may contain several kinds of germs which may infect us. Boiling of water for about 5 to 10 minutes kills all the germs in it. So, healthy way of drinking water is that first you boil it properly, then filter it, and then we can consume it. Now, what are the conditions that favors waterborne infections? That is, lack of safe water supply and polluted drinking water, or if the food items kept uncovered and if dust and dirt falls on it or housefly sits on it, it may get contaminated with several kinds of germs. Next, disease spreads through sexual contacts. Through sexual contacts, the disease that spreads are AIDS, full form is adeno-immunodeficiency syndrome, or various STDs, that is sexually transmitted disease like syphilis, gonorrhea, etc. Now, disease spreads through physical contacts are all those STDs and AIDS. STDs, I told, that is sexually transmitted diseases. One of the ways of physical contact between two persons is the sexual act. Diseases like AIDS, syphilis, and gonorrhea are spread by sexual contacts from one person to another. Such diseases are not transmitted by casual physical contacts like handshake, hugs, sports like wrestling, or by any other ways in which we touch each other socially. Besides sexual contacts, AIDS virus can also spread through blood-to-blood contact, that is, during blood transfusion or by use of an infected needles or a razor, and during pregnancy from an infected mother to her baby. Next we will see the disease spread through carriers. Now, many animals exist in the environment in which we live. These animals carry the disease-causing germs from an infected person to a healthy one. And these animals thus act as a carriers of disease. Carriers of specific disease-causing germs are called vectors. Most common vectors are mosquitoes. Mosquito spreads several diseases like malaria, filariasis, dengue, chikungunya, all these diseases are spread through mosquitoes. For example, malaria is caused by a protozoan. The name of that protozoan is Plasmodium. However, this protozoan is carried from the infected person to the healthy person by a female Anopheles mosquito. This female mosquito requires a highly nutritious food in the form of blood in order to be able to lay eggs. When it bites an infected person, it sucks the blood, and along with the blood, the disease-causing germs, that is Plasmodium, enters into their body. These germs get transmitted to a healthy person when the insect bites a healthy individual. Rabies. Rabies in human is caused by the bite of a rabid animal like dog, cat, mice, jackal, fox, all these things, they carry rabid infected. If they are rabid infected, they may transmit the disease to even human bodies also. The rabid animals is a vector of rabies virus. That rabies virus causes a serious kind of disease in human body, which may be fatal if it is not treated at the very beginning. And that rabies virus causes hydrophobia, that means fear from water. Next we will see the organ specific and tissue-specific manifestations. Now, in case of infectious disease, what happens to the disease-causing microorganism? Once they have entered the body through various means, this microorganism, comparatively being much smaller than the body, they can reach different parts of the body, different organs of the body through the blood circulation. Now, if they enter from the air through the nose, they are likely to go directly to the lungs, and this is how the tuberculosis causing bacterium enters the body. If any kind of germs enter through the mouth, then they can enter the gut lining, as in the case of typhoid causing bacterium. These are some of the examples I am telling. The AIDS virus, which may enter the body through sexual contact or infected blood or through infected needles of a syringe or razor, spread to lymph nodes all over the body. Then when mosquito bites, infected mosquito infected with Plasmodium bites, these germs, these malaria causing protozoans enters the human body through a mosquito bite and goes directly to liver and the red blood cells. The virus causing Japanese encephalitis or brain fever also enters the body through mosquito bite. After entering the body, it infects the brain. The signs and symptoms of a disease thus depends on the tissue or organ where the microorganism or microbes enters. If it enters the lungs, the symptoms will be cough and breathlessness. If it infects the liver, jaundice will result. Similarly, if the brain is the target, the symptoms will be headache, vomiting, fits, and even unconsciousness. Besides the tissue-specific effect of infectious disease, there are some common effects as well. Now, generally what happens when a person gets better after having an infectious disease, generally a person gets better after having an infectious disease. This is because the body can fight and kill most germs. Our body has the capacity to fight against the germs. When small quantity of the germs enters into the body, our body can kill that. Provided if our body is healthy, if we are doing exercise, if we are taking nutritious diet, taking proper rest and all, our body is able to defend against all these microorganisms. But lack of proper nutritious food, lack of proper exercise, rest and sleep, our body becomes prone to various kinds of microbes or germs. Now, what I am telling, the body system that fight disease is called the immune system. The system through which we can fight against the disease is termed as immune system. The immune system recruits many cells to the affected tissues to kill the disease-causing germs. And that recruitment process, that recruitment process is called inflammation. During this process, certain local effects such as swelling and pain and general effects such as fever may develop. It takes some time for the immune system to kill the germ. So a person with a disease is sick for a while. When the immune system has killed the germs, the persons get better. Now, there are medicines that can help people to fight the germs. If our immune system is unable to protect our body, that time we have to take medicine against that particular disease to kill the germs or to fight against the germs. When we'll go to higher classes, we'll study more about all these things, that is immune system or immunity power. And next class, class 10, you'll have a chapter on that in your health and physical education. In case of AIDS, the virus affects the body's immune system and damages its function. That time what happens? A person may get affected or may die also even with a simple or minor disease, because immunity power is totally destroyed in that case. As a result, the person falls sick frequently with several kinds of diseases. Now, many of the symptoms of HIV are due to body's immune system getting weakened, and thus the infection takes place. A minor gut infection, for example, can cause diarrhea with blood loss. It is because of these subsequent infections that people suffering from AIDS get killed. The principles of treatment and principles of prevention. Principles of treatment. Now, basically, two approaches are adopted to treat an infectious disease. That is, to reduce the effects of the disease and to eliminate or kill the cause of the disease. Now, to reduce the effect of the disease means here, by application of medicine to reduce fever or pain or to stop loose motion, as the case may be. Several kinds of disease has several kinds of symptoms. Like for influenza, we are having fever and body pain. In case of diarrhea, dysentery, we have the symptoms of loose motions. In case of cholera also same, loose motion along with vomiting. So the first approach, depending upon the symptom we take, that is, we have to provide appropriate medicine to reduce the symptoms and to rest so as to conserve energy. Now, the first approach will not lead to killing of disease-causing organisms or microorganisms. whether it is bacteria, viruses, fungi or protozoa. To complete recovery from any kind of such disease, it is important that medicines specific to the disease causing microbes are taken. We should take appropriate medicine. If it is fever or if it is influenza, we have to take one kind of medicine. That medicine is meant for such influenza. If it is for dysentery or diarrhea, we have to take the medicine which is required to cure dysentery, diarrhea. Now, for treating bacterial disease, medicines or antibiotics that block bacterial synthesis without affecting our own organ systems have to be taken by the patient. Now this medicine, what they do, they block the biochemical pathways important for bacteria. Say for example, many bacteria makes cell wall to protect themselves. They make a hard cell wall to protect themselves. Now the antibiotic penicillin blocks the bacterial process that build the cell wall. So that specific medicine, that penicillin, it blocks the formation of cell wall by that particular bacteria. As a result, the growing bacteria cannot make cell wall and they are killed. Penicillin does not act on us, as human cells do not produce cell wall. We have studied earlier that our human body, the cells, they do not produce any kind of cell wall. Animal cell does not have any kind of cell wall. Let us know some more about antibiotics. Antibiotics are chemicals. Listen carefully. Antibiotics are chemicals that kill or stop the growth of certain kinds of microbes. They help our body to fight disease. The name antibiotics comes from two Greek words meaning against life. Examples: penicillin, streptomycin, then tetracycline. So these are some of the common antibiotics. Now next, principles of prevention. Whatever we discussed just now, these are approaches. These approaches are meant to treat diseases. But what it means is that the patient undergoes the suffering due to the disease and remain bedridden in some cases. Or the patient may serve as the source of spread of infections to other people, and the patient may not recover completely due to the damage caused to his body organs. Therefore, it is better for people to be careful and ensure that preventive measures are adopted by them so that the disease do not occur. Okay. Main thing is that we can prevent any kind of diseases if we know the preventive measures, particularly in case of communicable diseases. We can prevent it if we know the preventive measures against that particular disease. Now let us see what are the preventive measures. Some of the methods are, say, for preventing airborne disease, the airborne microbes, for preventing airborne microbes, we must limit our exposure to overcrowded areas or such places where it is overcrowded or poorly ventilated. For preventing waterborne diseases, the various sources of drinking water must be checked properly. It should be clean, treated and potable drinking water must be consumed. You must take drinking water which is free from germs or microbes to prevent any kind of waterborne diseases. For vector-borne diseases, preventive measures are, we must provide clean environment so that mosquito breeding cannot take place. We must use mosquito net while sleeping or mosquito repellents, coils, etc. so that we can avoid ourselves from mosquitoes. Above all, public hygiene is the key to the prevention of any kind of communicable disease or infection. Another preventive measures against communicable disease is that by consuming proper and sufficient food, especially balanced diet. Lack of proper diet and sufficient balanced food leads to a number of diseases, and also our body becomes weak, and a weak body becomes an ideal place for any kind of diseases, particularly communicable diseases. The immune system of the body does not function normally in such a condition. So that is why we must take proper nutritious diet in proper time and in proper amount. We have studied all these things in class 8. Importance of food or what is balanced diet, etc. Okay. Now these above mentioned methods are general ways of preventing infection. Another way we can prevent communicable disease is that by immunization. That is getting vaccinated. As nowadays to prevent COVID-19 infections, vaccines are given, though it is till now it is about 18 plus vaccines are discovered for the age group of 18 plus. Below these ages, vaccines are coming very soon. Okay, now by immunization is a specific method of preventing diseases. It is a common experience that if you are suffering from cough and cold, others around you try to keep away. Why? Because the people around may get exposed to the infection. But at the same time, it is observed that all of them do not catch infection. Why such? This is because our bodies have an immune system which helps to protect our body from microbes. Now, the body's power to fight against the germs or to resist and overcome infection is called immunity. The immune response, however, varies from person to person. And that is why some persons are more sensitive or prone to infections than others. If our immunity power is weak, our body can catch any kind of disease very quickly. In the case of many diseases, immunity is created by a person having the disease and recovering from it. Okay, our body develops immunity power against some diseases if we are infected with that disease earlier. For example, smallpox, chickenpox, measles. Generally it occurs once in a lifetime. If anybody gets infected with such kind of disease, the body develops immunity power for that disease and it remains in the body. So next time whenever that smallpox, chickenpox or measles germs enters into the body, it gets killed immediately. Now, or in other words you can say, this gives the body a lasting immunity. This means that once you have one of this disease, you won't get it again. Thus, artificial immunity can be provided to children, particularly by injecting specific vaccine in the body for protection against the disease. And this is known as the vaccination. This is the basis of vaccination. Vaccination and vaccine. Edward Jenner, who first developed the techniques of vaccination in 1798, long ago, and this was the result of a 26-year study of two diseases, that is cowpox and smallpox. Cow is called vacca in Latin and cowpox as vaccinia. From this word, Pasteur developed the term vaccination and vaccine. Now, what is vaccine? A vaccine is a suspension of a disease-producing microorganisms which is modified by killing or weakening so that the suspension will not cause disease. Rather, it stimulates the formation of antibodies. Antibodies is a type of chemical which fights against the disease. So, it stimulates the formation of antibodies upon inoculation or injection. The antibodies remain in blood for long, and when the germs of a particular disease enter the body, the antibodies destroy them. And this is the basis of immunization. When our immune system firstly sees an infectious microbes, it responds against the microbes and then remembers it specifically. So, in future, next time, whereas that particular microbes enters the body, the immune system responds with greater vigor. Some common vaccines are like DPT vaccine for the protection against diphtheria, whooping cough or tetanus. Diphtheria, whooping cough and tetanus. Whooping cough is also known as pertussis. So that is why D for diphtheria, P for pertussis, T for tetanus. BCG vaccine for protection against tuberculosis. Name is given after the scientist who discovered that disease, BCG vaccination. Then polio, OPV vaccine, typhoid vaccine, measles vaccine, TT vaccine, that is against tetanus. TT is taken against tetanus. So that's all about this chapter. Again, I'll come back with another new chapters. Till then, bye bye.